Guess it still fucking works. Oh man. Yeah, I figured I'd jump on stream. It's Friday. I haven't been here for a bit. I checked, there's some new subscribers, which I don't know why they're still coming here, but yeah, it's become very clear to me that I'm not messaging the fact that I'm doing this very well, so I probably need to work on that. But yeah, this is the I'm Still Here stream. I haven't been doing any photos at all. I've been getting my soul crushed in a contract. I probably shouldn't say anything else about it, but yeah, I'm working right now. I wasn't expecting to be. I was supposed to be doing some side projects these days, but yeah, they're both happening right now. So that's why photos haven't been happening. Yeah, but I'm hoping to get back to it soon. I haven't been shooting. I haven't been outside very much. Yeah, it's been interesting, but all good things. I think by the end of March, I will be full-time unemployed for real this time. I'm giving it at least, it's gonna be at least a month, unless another contract comes through. There's some potential for one in May, but I don't know. I really want to give personal projects a go, get back out shooting more, do more photo work. Yeah, not interested in clients, more collaboration. So how I get there is still TBD, but I'm not going to bullshit very much. This is probably not going to be a very long stream, but I just haven't jumped in photos for a while, so I figured I'd do that. I don't know if it's a Friday afternoon. I'm probably the only one who's sitting in front of my computer editing photos or would be interested in anyone in editing photos. And that's not me saying I'm interested in myself editing photos, but you know, this is all DVR content still. I think it's like 70 some subscribers, which is great. I've gotten some positive feedback. I've gotten comments from people saying they would love to tune in. So the problem is distilling things down. All this bullshit of me just like rambling, going on tangents. I don't think anyone's fucking interested in that at all. And I don't blame them. I don't have time for that shit. So I think that's on the agenda too for when I go full freelance between all these projects, is making more like poignant videos. I think I've been talking about the last couple streams. I've just not gotten around to doing it. I'm just chronically behind on fucking everything. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and edit some photos. I don't know what's going on with this. My headphones. Got these AirPod Maxes, and like if you wear a hood, it just starts pushing buttons on the back. Like lukewarm on those at best. But photo time. I'm gonna stop bullshitting. Yeah, this is what I posted today. And what I don't know. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably see me bitch about color profiles. So this is the problem. I normally have a way of managing the feed from my iPad, but apparently there's a software update because it's not showing up as being able to mirror as a second, or do whatever sidecar, whatever the hell it's called. So I don't have a second display right now. So I don't want to just show everything on my screen. I'm not prepared, what can I say? But yeah, basically like all the colors in this, they're not right. Like depending on what screen, it doesn't matter if I pull it up, it's not streaming my desktop. So basically my workflow now consists of Capture One, excuse me, taking things into DaVinci Resolve and then exporting out from there. And it's kind of an arduous process, and that's why like I'm trying to get all the kinks worked out and I can't figure out color profiles. So I haven't really done very much lately. If you look at the screensaver or the Apple TV lately, you'll notice there probably hasn't been very much added. I do have a couple I can add in the last couple days. I've been just kind of like sneaking in one or two. But again, it's like some of the updates for the Apple TV app. like some of the marquee images that show up, like if you go to the app on the TV, like some of those banner images, those are using some of these settings updated, that's like an export from DaVinci Resolve. And I knew at the time that I didn't have the settings right. The grains were kind of hard or heavy, and it looks like shit on the TV. So that's kind of like when my brother had time to update it. So I just exported what I had, knowing like, because that's the thing is like it looks good on one screen, but it doesn't look good on another. You'll find like if you ever put your images on a TV, like strap in, like I don't know what the fuck to expect, like or what to tell you to expect. Like it's just, I have a Sony. It's it's not even like a high end, but it's not low end, so it should be okay. But it's really kind of shit at the end of the day. In terms of like replicating color accuracy, contrast, I think I've said it before, but like check colors on a shitty TV. Like I have the app, so I can push images to the app and have it kind of go through there, so I can check it. If you can just use like an Apple TV or something, um, that's a good way to check your colors on a TV. Again, because it'll show banding, it'll show. It's just really unforgiving for everything. So there's some areas even in this cloud where like I wasn't too sure about how much I pushed things. I really didn't push all that much. I mean, I definitely went a little colder. Um, and what's funny is like I try to like retain some of these warmer tones through here, and I've done that through adding saturation to the yellows and oranges. But I usually don't like adding saturation, so it's little things like that. Like I don't know how that's gonna render, but yeah, I don't. What lens was this with? Should be able to find out. Oh, 24 to 70. I guess I did punch in a little bit. You can see I did a little masking in it. I didn't know that it actually it retains the information outside of the crop. I don't really like that as my rubber little pads. Oh, I fucked it up big time. Because these glasses just are like, oh man, this is gonna be stupid. Well, my glasses are probably gonna be crooked. I don't need glasses, just the blue light filter on these. Maybe the hat and the headphones will help, but yeah, I don't need prescription yet. I'm sure my eyes are gonna be fucked in a couple years, but this is purely for blue light filtering. If I look at a screen long enough, my eyes just go to shit. This is like the random tangents. Like if you just subscribe and you didn't really look at any of what I've been doing or any of my other streams, I need to focus more on this. And I think that's what more people coming to a live stream would keep me on topic, but I'm left to fill dead air, and that's when I don't know what you're gonna get. Um, so I don't know what's all helpful. Right now I'm focusing on, like I keep coming back to this. I actually did a local edit. I did a radial gradient on this, and I usually don't. That's what the masking was that you're seeing, is that I rasterized the gradient and then started removing sections of the cloud. So it kind of played this up a little bit. Like it definitely was lit a little bit more, but I mean, I definitely embellished it. And this to me looks like this looks fake to me. But I just got done watching, I think it's called The Struggle on Netflix. It's about this artist named Zelensky. Super interesting, but like his approach to art and how it's meant to be like exaggerated, like to prove a point or to like convey emotion. It's supposed to be exaggerated, and I think that's a really interesting way of. It's very obvious, but it's not something I really thought about. Like to me, exaggerating things looks ham-fisted or fake. Um, and I would argue that this starts looking a little fake, like how kind of flat and dark this is compared to here. This is theoretically possible. If there's just like a break in the clouds and it all comes down here, but did I capture that? No. Did I wish I did? Yes. So My goal with local edits is not for it to feel fake, and that's kind of what I'm grappling with right now. Is like, I think I've bitched about it before about people who just go too hard on local edits, but me having that rule, like, how do I walk that back when I start like pushing yellows and oranges? Like, that's technically a local edit. It's just using different parameters. So I'm not gonna just rattle on about that. I actually want to edit some photos this time because I did add a bunch. I started going through my catalog again, and I always have like green is good to go, yellow is kind of work in progress. So I always have those filters on for each folder so that I don't see all the ones that aren't tagged. And I always tag them on my very first import. So I'm really trusting my eye in that first import, and it's usually pretty decent, but it's not always there. Like I don't know if I can find which one. It'd be marked yellow. The one from Hawaii. It's just like, why the fuck? Because like I think like if you start shooting action stuff and you start, I gotta check one thing real fast. Yeah, if you start like looking, like shooting action and start shooting like fast bursts, then you're seeing like 12 of the same things. Or like for me shooting from the shore at the beach, like it's like waves just kind of start looking like waves, and it's like so you kind of miss the details of things that are fairly impressive. Um, so I'm for sure guilty of that, and that's I used to narrow down a couple hours of shooting to like 30 photos, which to me is unfortunate now. I wish I didn't do that as aggressively. I want to I don't want to hold on to like shitty images, but I don't want to trash images that may have potential. It's like a super blurry line in terms of like once you start having like shooting raw and you have to start scaling, like you have to be kind of picky about what you keep because then you have redundancies to like my NAS drive that then backs up to Amazon Glacier. So it's like every image I keep, I kind of need to fucking keep. I gotta try and find that shot. That, like I just didn't even mark it. I didn't delete it, but so this is kind of my cue for the screensaver right now. Where the fuck is it? See, there's no way to filter. I complained about this last time. I'm not gonna do it, but it may have been from a stream I deleted actually because I just started rambling, and then I wasn't sharing my screen for half of it. I've done that twice now, so it's 1000% amateur hour over here. Where the fuck is it? What's it doing by process state? Like, what is even process state? Fucking useless. I'm gonna find it. Maybe not. Fuck. Yeah, there goes my point about what your eye gets used to. I could probably find it. Just don't look at my file names right now. This pipe short. This is all pipe, so who cares? If you don't know where pipe is, you've got bigger problems. Is that this year? No, that was 19? Was it Fiji? Rocky Point? Or was this last time? Wasn't Pipe Masters? I think it was Big Pipe. Filter. Yeah. No, I think that was one of them. But just shit like this, it's like I didn't even think twice about it. I just looked at it and was like, oh, whatever. But when you start looking at like how many there are of very similar images, I actually didn't distill this one down, so I think I got really lucky that I didn't delete it. But like this kind of stuff just gets lost, and I don't know what to do about it. Or like pulling in on details. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Yeah, so there's like this whole thing. I've got a lot to go through. But that's probably not useful for me to just bullshit on about that. Yeah, pretend you didn't see any of those locations. I'm like worrying less about like exposing where I'm shooting. Like no one fucking cares. Instagram already did that a long time ago. So this is the problem, is like I have all these images marked, but they're like all half done. Like I think that's probably the other part of the stream that people don't get much value out of, is like I just pop in and never really finish anything. And it's kind of useless. So it looks like there's 2 people here. It's record numbers right now. If you have any requests and you're here, like definitely say it. Because I have no idea what I'm doing, if I'm being entirely honest. I think I looked at this one last night. Let's see, why the fuck is it glowing? No. I don't know if that came through or not, but so one thing I have to do with the process of going DaVinci is just I have to get rid of all grain, because the grain is then being added on in DaVinci. So it's kind of weird looking at images here, because they just look kind of stale, if I'm being honest. And this one actually breaks some of my rules of like not lifting that last point in the curves panel. I'm trying to do it by levels now. So I've rambled on about the fact that I don't know exactly the process and how I want to use each of these sort of. Oh, you can't see my cursor in this now because I'm not sharing my full screen. Let's see if I can do one from scratch and kind of show how I'm using things these days. Kind of a whatever image. See if I can make something out of it. Half the problem is like I don't know if I can make something out of it going in. So I still have my stream deck that I know I was just rattling on about forever about how great it is. It's still great. I'm just trying to work into my workflow, but I have all these sort of base points across all my channels that get added. It used to be adding additional layers on for color adjustments and like film softening is what I called it, but I don't really do that anymore. So my process now is white balance is, I think, more the traditional sense of like neutralizing it to what I think is pretty accurate to the moment of what it was captured. It may not be ultimately like the vibe I'm going for, but like I'm using more of the levels down here to kind of affect the color balance. So I've even like pushed the high dynamic range below. So my whole thing is like I'm trying to go from like this white balance area down to exposure levels, high dynamic range, and it's actually I skip curves now. I go over the color balance, and this is where I do like different styling or different like, yeah, it's adding color from like a stylistic perspective. Color editor kind of gets into like this weird gray area where it's kind of stylistic. Sometimes it's like I'll use that to combat any sort of like heavy grade on anything. Like if I want to go cold on something, but if you go cold with everything and just like let's say your way of going cold is just by like, well, it's not my way of doing it, but you lower the temperature or you like you fuck with the level so much that like everything's kind of bluish, to kind of like offer some balance. Like I'll just like ramp up the saturation on yellows or oranges or reds, just to kind of offset. But again, that's kind of a, from what I'm finding now, that feels like kind of a dangerous game of like you don't want to push things harder than you have to. Let's see, I'm like old habits going right back to dynamic range. So for me, like this was more of like a sunset picture. So moving the midpoint, and I'm slowly like wrapping my head around what each of these sliders do. Because it seems very weird once you get into the color channels in terms of like your expectation of like what you get when you modify each of these points. Like to me, I'm like moving the black point up. I don't know if this is like the gradation of it. I don't know the best way to put it. I don't know. Maybe I don't fucking know. But for like sunset images, to me, like there's really no highlights, so it's kind of like, so on a, like at the whole image basis, like I kind of nuke the contrast to get a more even image to work with. That kind of lets you pick and choose where you establish contrast. So for me, like leveling this out kind of gives me a little bit more to like, okay, if I ultimately want to push things, I can kind of like add some blacks or shadows down there. But as I'm modifying that, I can kind of see if I go up to my histogram, like so my starting preset, if you want to call it that, is like I lift whatever these, however you want to call this, up to 10. So I reduce any sort of pure black, so you can see like it never will touch the far left here. And that'll change as I start modifying value in different parameters. So whether that's, I don't do it as much anymore. I kind of just have like a soft S curve on my Luma curve. It's more once I get into like these sort of values, like you can see, like I'm technically not messing with it and taking it to these sort of pure blacks in what is like the traditional levels, exposure, high dynamic range, but you can get there from other sliders. So this is something I'm learning with Capture One of like, I still don't know the order of operations. And like, I guess they have tooltips. I don't know how I got that to show up. Oh yeah, there you go. You can get tutorials on levels. How do I turn this fucking thing off? But yeah, so like it's just guess and check, and like I don't hold anything totally sacred in terms of my process. So yeah, I'll just stop there. So I'll just kind of oscillate back and forth a little bit in terms of like slider values, knowing that like I kind of want to add some reds throughout because it is a sunset picture. But if you have sunset with red rocks, it's like you just start getting into like this weird realm of like, hey, it's all red. And like, I think I was talking about it last time, but you can easily lose like the significance of the fact that like there is this color contrast between the rocks and the bluish sky. If you look at the original, I mean, it's there. It's like the blue haze is something you have to cut through to kind of get that to come out a little bit. So if you're looking for a linear process on this, I'm probably going to disappoint you. I'm used to doing that to people. So I'm good with it if you are. I guess is the short of what I'm trying to say. But it's even like green, like if you start reducing greens, you start getting into like a purplish hue, which then kind of is tangential to reds, and you get this kind of purplish red mix, which doesn't really look very appealing. So even now, like I want to jump down to shadows. It's because it feels like it's getting lost. Like it's just like I used to want to pull all information out, but then I went the other way of just like hiding half the image and making it dark. But I don't think we need to go that far. I think it's nice to be able to like see the information here, but you don't have to see like the details of like the crevices. Like I'd rather focus be driven here. So how you control people's focus is another thing entirely. And so curves, like I'm not even going to touch that now. I've gotten to a point where I don't touch them. Blues is kind of where this is going to be, I think, made or broken. Just because there's so much blue haze through here that like it's already, I don't know if it's because of the white balance, but like how you cut through that. And so reducing it down in the highlights, because the highlights tend to fall through here, like even this. Well, you can't see my cursor. I'm great at this. Natural streamer. So if you could see, like I'm clicking over here on the levels, the spike kind of midway between the midtones and the highlights, that's kind of where the shadows are, or like the blue sky is living. So if you start fucking around with like the top end, you're really not affecting that much. You're more applying it to like the reds, which are coming up a little bit higher, but still like, because I went and took the RGB like top value down and kind of like smashed it a little bit, you're not going to find that much in the upper end. And that's kind of the reality of these dusk type pictures. Oh, fuck. Almost knocked my beer over. Hold my beer. Make sure there's no work stuff coming through. It is after hours, so I'm good to stream, I think, but who knows? Not a doctor. Fuck. Let's see. So this is where it's tricky because it's like the blues kind of don't really want them, but they offer a little bit of balance. Like I think removing a little bit helps. You can still see there's some blue. That's not even blue. My eye's that bad? It's green. Wow. Looks blue. So green's through there. So that's where like fixing shit like this, like I'll go to curves. Just because like the whole objective for me using levels is to smoothen out the color application. Whether it's through like soft gradations in the sky, whatever it is, even if it's a high contrast image to start with, I think the colors you can get here are smoother. And that's kind of like, oh my God, that's so loud in my headphones. That's like really fucking with me. So I think levels is like this kind of, it's taking the white balance a step further, like tipping its toes. I always say tipping toes, but I think it's dipping its toes into getting into like stylization of images. But to me, it's more, it's still kind of in that realm of neutralizing all these fucking updates. It's neutralizing some of the like the way the sensors like interpreting the colors. To me, it's not right. Whether it's the white balance I think is inaccurate, whether it's just kind of how the sensors process colors, I don't know. Whatever it is, like to me and what I'm looking for, it's not it. Once I get into color balance here, like I'm over, I think you probably see it. This is when I get into more like the stylistic elements of it. And this is where like adding that yellow is kind of interesting. I don't know if that's quite it. So I'll just do laps around the color wheel sometimes. Like I know I want to have a warm feel, but sometimes like you need the balance in the shadows to offset it. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes there's like enough spikes of like blues or greens to kind of offset, like if you want to lean into like yellows in the shadows. I mean, I'm tempted to try some warm tones in the shadows, but leaving it pretty quiet for the most part. Highlights, like I don't even know what I would really want out of this. I think if anything, it's like because I'm doing a lot of the warm tonality, like I might want to retain some blues in the sky by adding like a little bit of a blue tint. But I don't like to go too far because then I don't feel like I'm being honest about how I'm applying colors. Like that means I'm fucking around too much on the white balance, which isn't ideal. So you can see like cutting through it, like it's much more neutral through here. So you can't see the cursor, but I'm kind of just going in circles, looking at like average. So up top where it says like all these tools are that I'm kind of clicking around at now. It's so annoying you can't see my cursor. those numbers underneath there are a great indicator of kind of what's going on. And like I was dead wrong about like, hey, it looks like blue haze, but it's not. It's all green, which to me is still wild. But if you want proof that like you'll still get shit wrong all the time, like, but that's, I don't know. That's kind of the beauty of this is like, there's no right way to do it. Your eye just kind of evolves over time. And your eye will play tricks on you. So it's like if you have these hard and fast rules, it's like why they don't really translate one-to-one across the board. And so I'm looking at like the midtones, kind of like neutralizing it a little bit. I do feel like I should kind of knock down the shadows a little bit. So even though like in the shadows, I was pulling up a little bit, if I use the shadows and the color balance, I found it does probably does offend the color balance or the light balance, but it does affect it more towards like the darker side. So I can pull down the darker shadows. It's not quite the blacks, it's more like the darker shadows, but not the shadows. So that's where you'll start bouncing around between the color balance wheels of like, okay, I'm adjusting the values of the shadows through here. Maybe I need to kind of like poke around here a little bit. And it sounds like me going back on my word, but I'm almost liking the fact that like this is lost. Like you can't, I don't think this is it. Because it looks like a mistake right now, if you're asking me. It's like my design mindset coming through of like if it's not, like if you're trying to center line, like if you put something like in the middle, but it's off by like 20 pixels right, it looks like a mistake. And that's why I don't like 24 column grids, because everything looks like a fucking mistake, but I'm not going to talk about design right now. I'm sure there's a lot of people just mad at me for saying that. 24 column grids is not a fucking grid. You're just too lazy. At least on web. That's my take on it. I don't care what you say. So I'm feeling okay about it. I mean, like what we're able to do, it does feel a little kind of beaten down. You know what I'm saying? It comes back to the fact that the curves, so right here, like I'm really limiting the top values. Arguably too much, but I think with the color wheel highlights, I'm able to kind of pull back some of these values here. So this is more the midtones highlights. Like, I don't think I want to touch it because you can see like it starts picking up all sorts of weird tonalities. Like, oh my god, like in the clouds, like you'll see, and you notice this, like if people nuke their highlights to try and retain blowouts, or that's usually what it is like an image is improperly exposed and you want to like save the highlights, like you just start like pulling them down, but it's like that just, you start picking up all the color applications throughout and it just gets this weird like muddy tone, like oh but you see, like because I didn't nuke them, like it feels much more neutral and natural, and I'd argue that this feels plausible. I mean, this isn't too far off from how I remember it, if I'm being entirely honest, but maybe that's just me. And this is, yeah, you can find people get in trouble with this. So this is where I get weird, because now you're like, if you start bumping up these sort of highlights, like you're fucking with the image itself, like, or you're fucking with the moment, if you ask me. I know I sound like a goddamn purist, and I'm really, I guess I kind of am in some ways, but yeah, close the work laptop. It's like if you start upping the yellows, like you're making it seem more dramatic than it really was, and to me, that's faking it. And I don't know why. Like I've recently been trying to like sit down and trying to drill into like why I draw these arbitrary lines where to me stylistic enhancements are perfectly well and good, but to me once you start fucking around or faking what an image actually is, then I've got issues with it. And that's where I see like all these composites online where people start just throwing birds and stuff. It's incredible. It's like I found a feed I almost posted on my Instagram of like these people. I don't know if they found it's probably like some AI now at some point where it's like, hey, add birds or god rays or whatever, and they're like birds and god rays. Let's fucking go. And it's just the most absurd shit I've ever seen. But it's like, hey, 8,000 likes on Instagram, so maybe I'm wrong here. I don't fucking know. It's wild. That's why you can't care about what people do or think on Instagram. I'm thankful that there's some people who like my work on there, but interesting. Camera error. Request did not complete within the specified timeout period. It's showing on the stream? No, you can't see that. Whoa, look at on the stream. It looks really fucking saturated though. That's kind of wild. That's really wild. Why is that so different? So I'm looking at like in Streamlabs right now and it looks saturated as fuck. The rabbit hole of color profiles gets deeper. It's like I thought I had like, I was seeing it different in VLC, Capture One, Preview, DaVinci Resolve on my mobile device. Now it's in live stream. So I'm looking at it now on the stream. It's not that saturated. I promise you that. I don't know what. I wonder if I could put a filter to knock down the saturation on this. Let me. I might try and do that real fast because that's really fucking bothering me. Capture One filters. Grayscale, dramatic, flashback, inverted. What? The fuck is this? Oh, is that live on the stream? It is. None. I guess I can't. I think I can do it if I do like a LUT and apply it to the full stream, but I don't. That's kind of a dicey game. I don't know if I really want to do that or not. But looking at what the stream is showing right now is fucking bothering me. It looks. Pulling it up bigger. It's way like not even close. I don't know what to do about that. I'm glad I'm not sharing my desktop. So my notes just came up from my ideas. Not ready for that. We'll get there someday. What's funny now is like I've seen the super saturated version. I look at mine now, it looks flat. Like, oh fuck. Like maybe I could add a little bit. Yeah, I think it's getting there. So the problem is not selects. I have to take off all my grain. So this is like I really have to commit to this process. I should really reset my clarity as well. Fuck, I haven't been doing that the last couple images. So, yeah. I was doing all this negative clarity and filigree to try and emulate film, if you want to call it that. But I've decided with DaVinci Resolve. And I think I went on about that on my last one. So what I need to do, my floor is uneven, so I keep rolling away from my desk, which is, it's like I'm rolling away and my glasses are falling down my face, so I'm having a great time. So this is Terra Warm. So then I will export that. And so from there, I'll take it into DaVinci Resolve. That's where the profile fuckery happens. I don't know what happens. I try all the color profile transformations. It's just, I don't know. But that's where I add in the softness, because if Capture One could just add like a box blur or something, I could live with their grain. It's just the softness you can add, and then it sounds bad, but I can add like a film stock. I can add the I can choose, like, so if I want to emulate a film stock, it's like one of the settings in the drop downs of like you can get the chroma or the I don't know what the other parameter is, but you can kind of like pick and choose what you want of it. And sometimes I kind of just like leave a little bit of like Fujifilm. I don't know my films. I'm not a purist. I'm sure there's purists hating me right now, but I don't fucking care. So that one, where did that go? That one I should mark green. It's gone. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, if anyone's watching. Again, like if you're watching this DVR, like recorded later, like please leave comments. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. I'm assuming what people might want to know. I'm working slower than I typically do because I'm talking things out. But if that's not helpful, like just like, and you'd rather just watch and kind of make your own deductions, like just say that. I can sit here and work quietly, like put headphones on in my music, or yeah, put headphones on in my music. It's great. I'm losing it. This contract's killing me. You ever seen a wave picture before? Didn't think so. Take that little fucker out. So we gotta kill the film grain. So again, yeah. I bounce around between like actually using the sliders and using arrows. Although in Capture 121, it used to be able to tab between like these input fields, but now it tabs between like input fields and the. I'm looking at the white balance section in case that's not obvious. Like I have to like, I don't know where the third tab is. So I'm like in this 6.5 tint, shift tab back to the slider, shift tab to fucking who knows where, shift tab again and get there. So if you want to start like going between all these values, like look, it's if you look at exposure, it's tabbing between these different fucking arrows. Like why? Who the fuck needs to like keyboard access those? Like I don't know. I'm pretty sure Capture One is just tiring me. Because I'll just submit tickets just wantonly, like, hey, like, let's do it this way. I didn't even realize I was punching in this much on this. I kind of figured I was, but I think I have like 30 open tickets with them. But like, oh, we received your ticket. Nothing's ever come about. I think I did get a response once or twice, but they're not doing shit. No one gives a fuck about the features I want. I don't blame them. I'm probably like an edge case for them. Who wants to like degrade their images? I think everyone's trying to like, it's like, oh, how do we make clarity smarter so I can just fucking hammer it? Like, let's go. Ship it. Put it on Surfline. I should probably stop, but I don't want to. Yeah, so these sort of images are always interesting. Well, not really. It's just like, how do you make it bright without losing a ton of detail? Because to me, this is like sunrise. The sun's come up over like the buildings in LA where I always shoot. And it always feels super bright when it happens. So how do you kind of capture that? And so this is where like I had the level like baseline or whatever the fuck you want to call that. Does it show it? Oh, it doesn't. Son of a bitch. Like the top value. I'm trying to highlight it. I'll go back to desktop streaming once I get my shit together. So I can actually. I think it's really valuable for you, whoever's watching, to be able to see where I'm looking. Because I'm just like, yeah, this like over here, it's just fucking nothing. It's great. So I always start with like the whatever value of the levels, the low end, like kind of like pushing that up. But when you push things brighter, like you can see your histogram's not even getting down there. So really all you're doing is kind of needlessly condensing the low end. Like you might as well, because it's going to the brighter end of the histogram, like it might even be maxing out here. Oh, it's saying that's a blowout? Can't see, yeah, you can't see the settings. These warnings, I don't know, whoa, what the fuck? That's highlight warning, I don't know why. What if that's gonna be better? Did I fix it? Nope. So you can set like the thresholds of like where blowouts are happening. That's a true blowout. That's good to know. So because I upped the brightness after fucking around with the levels, those turned into true blowouts. You can see up top like 244, 245, 246, 245. Like it's not a pure blowout. But if I take it back to where it was, I think it's 255 across the boards. Oh, that's pure white. So that is a blowout, which I'm okay with. I prefer not to have pure whites or pure blacks in any of my images because they don't really exist in nature outside of very odd scenarios that I'm not shooting. So why fucking allow them in your images? I don't know. So even though I'm like upping it, I will kind of taper this a little bit because I initially did it by like bringing the white point down. If that's the right way to say it, I don't fucking know. There's 12 different ways to skin a cat in this stupid application. But for me, like this was shot, let's see the raw. I almost like the raw better. But that's where like if you just do little things like pull in the shadows, because it's so elevated through the brightness, and I try and do more through the brightness than exposure. I think exposure is just like wholesale values. Brightness is, it seems like it's like the middle 75% of values is what it seems like. So you can push those a little harder without like blowing things out or just like totally smashing your shadows into just like this blob. So I prefer to use that instead. But see, like even with this image versus the other, this is such like a blue, like everything's in blue. Like the second you start fucking around with the blues, like you're fucking around with the color of the water versus adding stylistic elements. So you can see like, oh, I made the water green, like great. That's not adding style anymore. And like, I think it is sometimes. But it's kind of interesting in the fact that like reducing the darker greens, like it adds a little bit of depth to it by adding like the darker purples, because that's opposite end of the color wheel. That's what it looks like, at least. I don't know. Someone will probably correct me. Assuming anyone watches this. But I don't mind like greenish tints. I used to go like my tint used to go way more magenta, but for some reason I've kind of gotten away from that as of late. You can see like I kind of like the warmer. It's not that far off from reality. See, it's lost some of its. No, it's still there. It's there in a different way. Like the depth of the color is just different. Yeah. But see, like, yeah, you start fucking around with that too much. It's like green water. That's not real. Let's see. Sorry, distracted. So yeah, levels. I feel decent about the high dynamic range section. I mean, it feels better pulling down the highlights. I do want this to feel bright, so you don't want to crush the highlights too much, but it's always a balance because I think it's getting into like some blowouts through here. There's probably some pixels where it's purely blown out. It probably can't be because I taper the top end. It'll just like, it won't be like all the way blown out. It'll be blown out at like a lower value. 246 is I think where the high is going to be. I've never actually like done the math of like, okay, so in this levels curve, like the top being reduced to 246, like can I find something that's super bright that's over 246? And I don't think I will. No, 247. You can see the green value is 247. 248. The fuck? Maybe this is just like a gradation on it. Like this is the top, but this is like, I don't know. I need to like watch a YouTube video so I don't come in here sounding like an asshole about everything, at least. I used to always add purplish tones to my shadows, so I think that's a habit that's going to die hard. Again, like this being morning, like I'm tempted to kind of bring in some of the warmer tones, but you can see it's fucking around with too much of the watercolor, so it's not really ideal. But like if you start going blue, then it just flattens everything out. Like there's no color contrast between things. Yes, this is where I'm just gonna like do laps around the highlight color wheel. I mean, this is feeling better, but I don't know if it's better than nothing. I think it helps balance it a little bit. But again, like this is kind of getting in that sort of whatever realm. Like who the fuck cares? Who hasn't seen a wave picture? And that's something I'm trying to fight more and more. Of like, you start chasing down reality and then you just get something that just feels boring. And I don't. Like, who the fuck needs another wave picture? Like, there's thousands of these, and I think this is getting in that realm of. I think like the Grand Canyon picture is like something impressive at like kind of a cool moment where it was like sunset and the lights cascading across it. Like I think that's photo worthy, kind of independent of the edit. Seeing waves, like it doesn't help that there's 1,000 people out shooting water photography at all times. So it's like, one, everyone else has done it. I feel like I've done it. I'm bored of it. So if I don't care, why the fuck would anyone else care? That's kind of my thought process on it. And like this is really bothering me a lot, so I'll probably even punch in more. So it's getting more into like a texture thing, and then I just start doing random stuff like just flipping it. It's like that's like a cheap trick with water. It does kind of fuck with your head a little bit, but I don't think this is the image to do it. But I mean, you can see like it's fairly neutral. So one thing I can kind of do to come back, I always like elevating my reds. Like this is something that happens on every time I apply my preset, whatever you want to call it. It does elevate the red shadows just a touch. It at least adds the point. And you can see like even the red values aren't so much in the dark, in the shadows. So it's not really doing a whole lot right now. Like if I fuck with this one, like you can see like all, you can't see my cursor, but all the values to like the middle of the wave really start kind of like flattening out a little bit. So there's really not a lot of color correction I want to do on this. This is one where like I think it's nice creating a little separation between here and here, but that might be more of this section. So I'll hammer the values here a little bit. So you can see like when you start getting into this kind of shit, you can really start fucking around with like the depth of things that are on like a smooth gradation. And don't ever do that, whatever you do. So my way of like testing things out and seeing, because it's not always obvious of like what the color editor is really adjusting. So it's still surprising to me after doing this for a good while of like, I'd expect green is what I need to do in order to target things, and it's not. It's something else entirely. So I'll always come down here and just kind of fuck around with it. Sometimes it's the lightness shows the most, sometimes it's the color shows the most, but sometimes like you just, even in just understanding of like what you're affecting, like you kind of find something unexpected. It's like, oh, if I shift the greens more towards like a yellow, like that actually looks kind of nice. It creates more contrast that I wasn't expecting, and I didn't see it in my head. That's not to say that I see all these edits in my head beforehand. I have an idea most of the time, but I don't know. Just like not being too attached to any process or idea of like what it should be fucking helps a ton. But yeah, that's just how I do it. Like if it's not for everyone. Like even the yellows, because the yellow, like, it's such like a subtle gradation between the yellows, the greens, the blues. Like once you start pushing one, like you're gonna start getting pixelation through here really fast. It's gonna look like dog shit. So I don't advise pushing too hard on these. I always up the smoothness to the max. I usually do if I fuck around with it. But I mean, this is a perfect example of like I don't mind it. It's sharp-ish. I think I still have negative clarity on it. If I reset this. Yeah, I mean it's sharp. Colors are decent, the balance is decent, but it's like who the fuck cares? So this is one that I like. It's done insofar as like it's a kind of neutral edit, but it's not something I want to hang my hat on. Like that's, you kind of put like whatever you put out, you kind of want to get back of like I'm curating my interests, and if I'm not fundamentally interested in this, like I shouldn't post it. Like I'm sure that's like it'll get some likes, people will be interested in it. Maybe they're not super into waves or water photography or I don't know, it could be any reason why they find this interesting and I don't, but it's not, because then someone's gonna come to me for more images of what I post. So it's like, oh, like we'd love to get a bunch of water texture. It's like, well, I don't really want to do that. So if I don't want to do it, why the fuck would I put it out? I don't know. I'd look inside my dumb brain. All things I'm learning going freelance. There's just so many lessons to learn going freelance. I can't advocate it enough. If you want to learn a lot of things the hard way, like go freelance. Best advice I can give. Because you'll find out what you like just as much as you find out what you don't like. And I'm in the midst of finding out what I don't like. And it sucks. But you live and learn. Like, and you can't be mad at it. You can't be whatever. It's just like this shit happens. If you do it twice, then like that's a different story, which I'll probably do like 4 or 5 times, but that's, yeah, it's my own issues. Fuck, I've been going for an hour already. I gotta pack, because I'm actually heading out for the weekend. Packing the camera though, so hopefully I come back with something. Maybe I'll do a live stream talking through that. There's lots of design projects, and I'm really torn on how to show that. A lot of it kind of is like, I want to like show the process, but after the fact. And I know that's not as interesting. I've had thoughts of like going to Twitch and making it subscriber based only, so I'm getting something out of like giving away what I'm doing ahead of time. Because right now, the amount of shit I'm not gonna talk about that. I just see a lot of similar stuff online, is what I'll say. And then I'm bad about actually posting things, so then yeah, leave that there. But photos, it's like whatever, who the fuck cares? Like, none of this is really original at the end of the day. No one's gonna go out and shoot. I mean, people may go out and try and shoot the same shot, but whatever, who cares? So yeah, if I am still here, that's kind of what the whole point of the stream was. I don't know how long it's been. It's probably been like a month or two since I've streamed. But I am still here. I'm still into photography, even if I'm posting a lot about like the poster series I've been working on with Ash, which have been fun. I'm working on a site with Ari, his portfolio site, which has been fun. So design's becoming a bigger thing. I just don't know how to share it here. At the end of the day, like my whole thing is giving back information, sharing what I know, because I've just taken to this point. So again, like comments, super valuable. Give me a little guidance here and there. And again, videos will be coming that are more poignant, because I realize it's really hard to justify like investing an hour, or if I do like a 3-hour stream, like maybe there's like 3 little nuggets in there that are valuable to you. And there's not enough interaction, because I think there's been at most like 7 all time. I think the most concurrent viewers has been like 7. So there's not going to be like a community aspect to this anytime soon. So it's more about just taking requests, and then like ideally I can be productive. I've made it clear before, like I get value out of just talking these things out and formalizing these ideas that more just like kick around in my head that I don't really think much about until I verbalize it. So this is valuable for me too. So yeah, but I'll be back more often. I know I think I say that at the end of every stream, but I think I kind of mean it this time. So yeah, I don't know when I'll be back, but hopefully soonish, for sure in March. But I'm gonna try and make this like a regular thing, and design, photo, DaVinci Resolve if I can get that figured out. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it there.